Hello people, today I will be analyzing a game that conquered every publication on the internet and made it its bitch. Elden Ring is the spiritual successor to the early 2000s Lord of the Rings video game trilogy. After teaching audiences the feudal history of Japan, developer From Software secured financing from mainland China in order to create a historically accurate depiction of Europe during the bubonic plague. The story takes place sometime during the 100 Years' War between the kingdoms of England and France, or, as most of you know it, that war in Europe said to have lasted 100 years, but actually lasted more than 100 years. After the destruction of the titular Elden Ring, which at that point belonged to King Edward III of England, the belligerent parties reached a stalemate. By 1351, the Black Death was at its height. Pope Clement VI mobilized every able Frenchman to retrieve the shards of the Elden Ring and end the war to end all wars. The story and lore were masterfully crafted by modern absurdist philosopher Hidetaka Miyazaki in collaboration with George R.R. Martin, the author whose books somehow managed to become more popular than the Holy Bible, although no sane person ever finished them. In fact, the story is so well crafted, you have no idea what to do or where to go, or even if there is a plot, but you still press on for tens of hours because you feel morally compelled to do so. The loose structure of the plot allows you to create your own experience. I, for one, created a Catholic Church Inquisitor. I answered directly to the papacy, which at that time had its seat in France. The Holy Seat financed my conquest, justified, and even rewarded any act of violence. Like a rabid dog, I was set free against the English heathens, with the expectation to commit mass genocide in the name of my king. Each time I killed an Englishman, I was rewarded with French liver. I spent this currency to elevate my social status. Like in the Quran, death is not the end. In the From Software joint multiverse, although you die a great many times, you are brought back against your will. Canonically, you receive the both blessing and curse of eternal life directly from the Pope. Few people know, but the Pope was able to do this before King James's Bible stripped him of his power. Ethically, it is the most depressing premise I've ever seen in a video game. Your service to France becomes unending, your rest inexistent. The church claims all your valuables when you die. All your efforts up to that point are devoid of any reason and meaning, because everything you've done, every man, woman, and child you've killed in the line of duty are brought back to life in an effort to spite you. Existence becomes an absurd cycle. You rise again seeking the wealth you've been deprived of. You fall prey to your materialistic ambitions of grandeur. You cannot forfeit hours of grinding coin, and thus the cycle repeats itself. Miyazaki is truly an absurdist genius. The best policy I can recommend to become successful at this game and life in general is to prey on the weak. Defenseless English settlements are there to satisfy your needs. Back then, aggression towards non-combatants was deemed morally acceptable, as morality in times of war was discovered in the 19th century with the Geneva Conventions. Contrary to what PC culture might tell you, oppressing the poor can be rewarding on its own. After coming into contact with the disturbing realities of war and disease, I started questioning the almighty power of God, and my faith began waning. By the time I had reached the English citadel, God hath abandoned me. I died again and again to a giant English heathen wielding a stick. This proved me that winning wars was not a question of faith, but rather one of length and girth of the weapon you wield. I had a mental breakdown and settled for apostasy. I developed the will to become stronger and challenge God. I turned to sorcery because it was most similar to wielding a firearm. Casters are the preferred class of every low-life neophyte to the Souls-like games. If you play one, the Elden Ring community will shame you out of existence. I took up apprenticeship and became an astrologer. As an astrologer, you can pay random Romani immigrants to fight in your place, while you throw rocks from a distance, scream homophobic slurs, and complain on their incompetence. If you play astrologer, you will ascend to a higher level of efficiency, while hardcore players brag online about memorizing boss mechanics and risk brain aneurysm with each death, basically defeating the whole purpose of a video game. You find new ways to simplify the game and cheat. If you follow the preset rules and mechanics, you are a slave and deserve suffering. As Robert Kiyosaki famously put it in his work, Beyond Good and Evil, question the system and don't pay taxes. For instance, I killed this boss by jumping on a house next to the arena and unloading from a distance. Eventually, I ran out of cum, so I started throwing the excess money I deducted from my taxes, because the church did not pay taxes in the Middle Ages. This boss is a real piece of shit. Playing astrologer actually helps you break the game. I ran away from the boss as far as I could, while my Romani mercenary engaged it. I spammed spells until I broke its mid-fight mechanic. I stopped him from transitioning into his second phase, in which he grows a dragon cock and proceeds to force fuck you with it. I've talked too much about the game and my medication started wearing off. I already feel like I am doing you a disservice, depriving you of the joy of experiencing this game yourself. Overall, the game is excellent. Play Elden Ring. Play it now, and give all your money you saved for unforeseen consequences to the Chinese market. Remember, taxing the poor is cool. God bless the European Union.